"This lounge is reserved for our premier guests. You may want to double-check your credentials," Sybil said, her eyes gliding over Emery's jacket sleeve and landing unmistakably on his hair. Outside, the low whine of suitcase wheels rolled past as two college students hesitated by the entrance, their faces open and uncertain. Emery's hand paused midway through closing his leather folio. Click. The metal clasp echoed softer than Sybil's voice, but more final. The click caught a businessman's attention from behind his paperback, but he left it at that. On the corner table sat a mug promotional coaster peeking out, the only sign he was a regular. Emery placed his glasses on the table, letting the bright blue conference lanyard slip from his shirt pocket and disappear beneath the table. The morning was a sequence of tasks and moving pieces. A silent phone, a half-charged laptop, and this seat were all part of the machinery. Sybil straightened, smoothing the edge of her blazer. "I'll just need to see your boarding pass again," she said, fingers hovering over her tablet, thumb rhythmically tapping. Her syllables came tight, clipped to habit, not just today. She leaned closer, lowering her voice and tilting her head in a way that suggested she'd seen every kind of traveler and doubted most of them. "For verification, we've had, well, some confusion lately." Emery met her gaze, then slipped a pristine card across the marble counter, his only reply, "You already checked it, twice." A chime from the PA system announced a gate change nearby, the digital clock behind the bar shifting by 1 minute. The rows of seats emptied and filled again as an older couple, hands clasped tight, passed by whispering about missed connections. The scent of cinnamon rolls cut through the sharp aroma of espresso. At the far corner, one college student nudged the other, murmuring about how nobody else had been asked for their pass again. One opened her phone, the other watched, uncertain. Sybil's smile didn't move, her thumb stopped tapping. "If you'd like to wait outside until we finish our verification, that would clear things up." There was no movement from Emery, his voice stayed even. "I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." The next wave hit without warning. Already the first tremor had shifted something. No one pretended not to notice anymore. Another minute passed, all eyes on the counter now. There was more to come. He wasn't surprised by how quickly it followed Sybil's lead. Years earlier, reviewing FAA policy at 3 a.m., Emery had marked the precise clause about frequent flyer benefits. That was before he ever stood in an airport lounge as anything other than invisible. Today, he didn't wear insignia, didn't move like a man expecting recognition. The right sort, Sybil might have murmured on another day. Sybil scanned his boarding pass a third time, her thumb flicking over the worn screen. "Our new system's been tricky. Sometimes the names don't match up exactly, like, say, a typo or someone else's profile showing up." She managed a smile this time. "Can you spell that out for me, sir?" He took off his reading glasses. "Match what's in your database." The first college student bit her lip, eyes darting from screen to screen. She nudged her friend, voice a whisper shaped like hope. "Do you think he'll be okay?" Her friend shrugged, pressing record in a subtle motion, phone angled towards the counter. Sybil slid the boarding pass back, the plastic card catching on her ring. "I'll be right back." A pause, then a backward glance at Emery's hair, fascination barely disguised as professionalism. She returned in under 60 seconds, this time with a new tactic, a light touch as if hoping the subject might lighten too. "You know, I just have to say your hair is incredible. I haven't seen anything like it on our regulars." One hand, reaching up, stopped just above his shoulder, then down, then, without permission, fingers hovering over his curls. He didn't move. "Don't." Sybil almost laughed, voice too soft to be overheard. "Oh, sorry, just admiring. My daughter would love this. We get so many guests with the same old styles. Yours stands out." The businessman with the paperback finally looked up. The student filming caught everything, the lingering hand, the exchange, the silence following. Only the low grind of the espresso machine dared interrupt, deepening the hush. Sybil didn't back down. Instead, she shifted tactics again, glancing over at the students now. "We're updating our guest list in real time, sir. Sometimes upgrades don't process the way they're supposed to, if you know what I mean." Emery placed both hands flat on the marble. "Is there a policy you'd like me to explain?" That drew another regular in, a middle-aged woman in designer sneakers who'd been half listening. In a loud whisper, she said, "Maybe he's on standby. I've seen people sneak in." Her friend nodded. "Yeah, they really should check. Keeps everyone safe." The college students' live stream count flickered. 2, then 6, then 9. Comments scrolled across the screen, first bemusement, then sharper questions. Sybil stiffened, smile uneven. "We try our best, but sometimes the system, you know, makes mistakes, nothing personal." One regular stood, shrugged, and addressed the counter. "Let's all just get to Cancun, please. Some of us waited for this trip 6 months." Sybil's jaw tightened, but she caught herself. Sir, can you wait outside for just 5 minutes? We'll have this sorted. A young lounge attendant nearby hesitated, but said nothing. The silence felt expensive. He felt for a moment like turning away. He knew about losing time, about losing more than that. His phone buzzed, screen lighting up with urgent reminders, an array of calendar invites, all flashing red. Emery's thumb hovered over his phone screen, eyes scanning the abbreviated event name before the device dimmed again. He glanced at the exit, then at his satchel. For a half-second, the idea of leaving flickered. He could walk, take a deep breath, move past it, focus on the day's real work. The seat, the counter, none of this would matter in 12 hours. But then the younger college student, wide-eyed and knuckles white around her phone, met his gaze and didn't look away. Not judgment, not pity, something like expectation or memory. He placed his satchel by his feet, flat and firm, opened his laptop again. The low reflection in his glasses caught the sunlight. Sybil, mistaking the pause for retreat, inched closer. Sir, we can't keep. He met her half-step with silence. Just trying to be thorough, she said, tapping her nails on the counter with a rising impatience. With all the, new policies about guest experiences, can't be too careful. Emery's brow moved just once, barely visible. I'll wait. The student's hand steadied as she filmed, her friend's lips pressed together. No voice dared break the new tension. Sybil's expression shifted, calculation visible, but the line had been drawn. He was not leaving. We're boarding Group 1 in 3 minutes. All first class to gate 116. An automated voice broke in, PA system harsh as a blade. A ripple moved through the lounge, tension veiling every personal conversation. A crew member hustled past, glancing at Sybil, stepping around the pile of black suitcases near the coffee station. Emery's laptop screen flickered to life, the word keynote prominent in the calendar notification. Underneath, a spreadsheet scrolled, speaker bios, flight times, room assignments, each unread email, another clock ticking down. The red notification dot kept count. The student's live stream gained traction. Viewers 108, 126, 160. One comment blazed at the top. Why he only one checked? Another, more pointed. Do she check all black folks like this? Authority arrived as a head taller than the crowd, flight supervisor Mr. Kavanaugh, gray at the temples, shoes polished to a mirror sheen. He wore patience like a shield. Sybil, update. His tone was all business. She straightened, smoothing the corners of her blazer. We're just verifying this gentleman's access, the system's being difficult. Kavanaugh studied Emery's ID, then the boarding pass, letting the silence drag just a beat longer than comfort allowed. I see you're traveling first class, sir. Can you confirm your final destination? Cancun, Emery said evenly. Kavanaugh nodded, eyes scanning Emery's screen, a calendar he recognized. May I ask which conference you're attending? Emery snapped his laptop closed. I doubt that's relevant, but yes. Sybil jumped in, voice just a touch shrill. I told him sometimes upgrades, well, not everyone looks familiar, like the regulars. Kavanaugh's gaze sharpened. Sybil, how many regulars did you ask for triple verification this morning? She blinked. I only him, actually, and there was, well, you know how it gets. He turned to Emery. Protocols apply to all, but we're not in the business of targeting. Emery leaned in, eyes steady. Which section of your guest access policy authorizes tactile verification? Kavanaugh stilled, his face shifted, guarded. I'll look into this. Sybil's breath stuttered. We'll be right back, sir, Kavanaugh said. She followed, cadence clipped. The lounge noise poured back in. Silence concentrated and sharp. Kavanaugh's phone was pressed so hard to his ear it nearly whitened his knuckles. Yeah, this is Kavanaugh. I need to check a name. 1 sec. Yes, lounge incident, first class, Newark, Cancun, elderly gent. No, not disruptive. Just, Sybil said. There's confusion. That's right. No, that's how she phrased it. He turned, glancing sidewise at Emery, searching, seeing now a tangle of implications in place of a one-dimensional guest. No, pass is verified. What else is on there? Okay. Yeah, yes, that's what I thought. Hand gripping the desk, Kavanaugh's right shoulder stiffened. And you're sure, 14, all with us? His eyes flicked to the ceiling, tension drawing lines across his brow. He swallowed. I see, thank you. To Sybil, voice drained to a clipped hush. You'll want to sit. Sybil blinked, confusion creasing her forehead. She adjusted her badge, checked the tie on her ponytail, frowned at the sudden quiet around her, something shifting in the air, intent pricking at the seams. One of the students caught the moment, close up to Emery's face, then down to his lapel. There, for a split second, a gold pin glimmered. Comments ballooned. Nonprofit win last year. That's him, right? Witness count spiked to 380. The March for Fair Skies hashtag surged. Everyone waited. Emery reached for his folio, hands as steady as a surgeon's. A single sigh escaped the older regular's lips. The sound of a dropped stir stick rolled beneath the espresso machine. 3 seconds for no voices. The vending machine beeped as if an apology. Kavanaugh set his phone on the desk, voice impersonal but not cold. The gentleman here is the founder of the National Airline Fairness Trust. 14 lawsuits, Sybil, all concluded in our industry's favor, correction, in his favor. Sybil's jaw worked as though words might return at any second, but none did. The second layer fell from the far end of the counter. A staff member in navy, phone flashing, approached Sybil. She offered the screen wordlessly. On it, a message bold from Dyer, Legal Affairs, FAA. The text, visible to anyone in the proximity, read, "Incident at EWR Lounge. Founder of NAFT keynote speaker. Record thoroughly. FAA compliance team notified." Sybil absorbed this in increments, legs locking at the knees, hand bracing against the counter. Behind her, the designer sneakers retreated. She clutched the edge of the marble, color draining from her lips. The older couple by the window began packing up in silence, leaving vacant seats and unsaid apologies. The regular who whispered before avoided eye contact, sliding her phone off the table and tucking it into her purse without looking back. The student's camera betrayed her, zooming in on the sweat beading near her temple. Emery's voice cut quietly through the static. Dignity's not conditional. No bravado, just gravity. A phone dinged, time clicked forward. He rose, tucked the folio under his arm. The lounge parted silent, a kind of unwitting honor guard. He nodded to the students. The older couple lowered their heads. The regular by the paperback moved aside, eyes on her feet. Sybil, still perched behind the counter, tried to recover. "We're always working to improve, sir. Sometimes training isn't as clear." Her words dissolved. He paused. "Next time, ask before you reach." 30 seconds of live stream, he said it. Finally, comments, legend, how many more have been through this? Not one word raised, still owned the room. A junior attendant approached Sybil, but she shook her head and dropped her gaze. Outside the lounge, the terminal's rhythm resumed, boarding groups moving in slow symmetry, announcements looping from invisible speakers. Emery moved towards the gate, conference bag in hand. Near gate 116, a regional director in uniform intercepted him, clipboard, badge, smile stretched tight. "Mr. Sharp, on behalf of the airline, deep apologies for the mishap. We're going to handle this immediately. Can I offer a private shuttle to your gate, or anything else?" "I'm not here for perks," said Emery, voice level. "Of course, sir, but if there's anything," the director tried, but Emery was already walking. He stepped out to the curb, sunlight pooling over the concrete. The black sedan slid to a halt, door opened. Inside, screens lighting up, conference chat, call notification, keynote in 4 hours. Emery connected the call, board is waiting, status update, a brisk voice, all sessions on schedule, sir, and your panel was just announced. Silence while Emery let the driver merge. "We're tracking, see you at the hall." He pocketed his phone, leaned back, closed his eyes just once. He'd made it. The FAA convened within hours, paneling compliance officers and legal counsel in a windowless conference room, blinds drawn to pale. At 10:03 a.m., the general counsel tapped her legal pad twice. 14 cases, and today another incident streamed to 500,000, she said. "What's the number on stock drop today?" The COO entered, tossing an IR printout onto the table. Down 6% at open, 3.4 billion wiped. The CFO, eyes heavy, nodded. "We negotiated 4.8 million to settle NAFT class actions last cycle. This one will double if FAA intervenes." Someone remarked, 78,000 employees, 9,000 affected in premium space alone. Policy rewrite required. CEO, hand steady, "We issue an industry-wide apology. Immediate retraining. License review for all lounge staff. Terminate Sybil by noon, full hearing, but expedite." Silence, then March for Fair Skies hashtag hit 1.3 million. Viewership tops last quarter's Super Bowl ad. Make it count, the GC said. Breaking news at noon, Advocate ex-cabinet appointee Emery Sharp denied access at EWR First Class Lounge. FAA launches investigation. Protests mount outside 3 major U.S. airports. Not the first time, says activist lawyer. Streamed over 1.2 million times last night. Airline stock tumbles, settlement talks intensify. More after the break. At the Hyatt downtown, outside the grand ballroom doors, Emery scans his badge on time. He surveys the crowd, 10,000 attendees, a river of camera crews, endless applause. A junior panelist leans in, hushed, "Sir, all anyone's talking about what happened at the airport." Emery's reply is as precise as the agenda. "We start in 2, that's the only focus." That afternoon, media trackers count 1.9 million unique interactions. Foundation phones ring off the hook with new reports, zeroing hope for a new baseline. Within 60 days, FAA compliance audits sweep 11 major airlines, rehiring and retraining a total of 12,000 staff. Market capitalization recovers only halfway. Numbers settle, but the air feels changed. Accountability, no longer a slogan, moves through departments like a silent current. 6 months later, a different airport, the same branding over the lounge entrance, but the feeling isn't the same. Emery steps inside. This time, an attendant meets him with a smile, asks for his boarding pass only once, and gestures, "Welcome, Mr. Sharp. Something to drink while you wait." He thanks her, voice steady. Change doesn't always declare itself. Sometimes it arrives in a simple transaction. For every assumption filtered through polished glass or rehearsed in lowered voices, there is now a crowd of witnesses, willing, watching, and in rare alignment, ready to hold the system open. Today, consequences meet complicity in broad daylight. No bystander gets to claim blankness. No account remains safely off-screen when the agency of one can ripple out to millions. The rules aren't written in the lines of a pass or the pride in a voice, but in those who refuse to look away and those who decide to stay put when it's least convenient. Because the measure of dignity isn't a credential you flash at the gate. It's a threshold you decide won't move, not for pressure, not for prejudice, not for the next traveler in line. If these stories move you, let the silence end here. Subscribe to hear every new chapter as it crosses the sky, and share this video so the next verdict isn't left to whispers. Every view is a witness, every share a bright line. Watch the hand that tries to move the line. Listen for the click that says it won't. His next flight wasn't until late afternoon, which left Emery time to sit and absorb the difference. Beneath ceilings crosshatched with natural light, he settled into a low-backed chair by the window, a curious vantage, not quite removed, not front and center. The lounge buzzed in soft harmony, a measured hum. This time there were no sidelong glances, no coded questions hiding in the service of policy. He pulled his laptop out, less armor now than a tool, and scanned the morning's notes. Across from him, a young father with 2 sons paused to untangle earbuds before casting a nervous look toward the espresso machine. The older son wandered, peering at the pastry display, while the younger sat quietly on his suitcase, eyeing the world through bright blue glasses. A gentle voice reached Emery. "Excuse me, sir, would you like a cappuccino or perhaps just an Americano?" The attendant's badge read Anais. She was new, nervous, but not unsure, her tone trained and even. Emery smiled. "Americano, please, black." "Of course, Mr. Sharp, I'll bring it right over." Her use of his name was crisp, not performative, protocol, but warmer, as if learned in a classroom where the importance of names had meaning. She left with purpose, the kind that yanked time forward and returned moments later with his drink. "Thank you," he said, and she nodded, pausing for a breath. "If I may, your work, the foundation. It changed my cousin's career. He got hired back at the airline last winter. Started over, new contract, same smile. He asked me to thank you in person if I ever got the chance." Emery's lips lifted in a small, genuine arc. "That means more than you know. Please tell him I said congratulations." She beamed, then retreated, a ripple through the calm water of the lounge. Emery sipped, letting the heat settle his nerves. He opened his notes, but the world outside, the mosaic of rolling bags, laughter, and the sky glazed pink on the horizon, kept tugging at his focus. His phone buzzed again, but the tenor was different, a group message from the foundation. "FAA reforms pass first vote, House floor tomorrow, need statement press at 3 p.m. EST," and below a personal message. Gabriel, congratulations, Dad. We're so proud. Let me know if you want me to send the interview questions in advance. Emery smiled, his son ever the planner and now, after everything, the first in the family to imagine a world where this was just another day at work. He thumbed a reply, don't send them, I'll take the call cold. He closed his eyes just a moment. Instead of the shutter flash memory of Sybil's hand, he found instead Anouilh's careful greeting and the subtle gravity of being, even briefly, allowed to belong. A soft pop of commotion drew Emery out of his reverie. Across the lounge, the father's younger son had knocked his orange juice onto the plush carpet. The boy blinked, startled, as a slice of toast slid to the floor. Anais was already moving. No harm done, sweetheart, she said brightly. Let me help. The boy's father stammered, I'm so sorry, I'll clean it. No trouble at all, I have napkins, see, happens every day. Anais smiled, pressing away embarrassment before it could set. Emery caught the exchange in the surface of his cup. This was how change rooted itself, not in press releases or apology banners, but in minor human choices day after day. He started typing right there in the hum of the lounge, the words coming like muscle memory. The measure of equity is found in what we offer each other when we think no one will notice. His flight was called, but he finished the paragraph before rising. At the gate, the attendant greeted him with a direct, easy smile. Welcome, Mr. Sharp. I see you in 3C. Would you like some extra space for your satchel? We'll have your meal preference ready. Yes, thank you, he said, and it's just Emery. She grinned. Of course, Emery, have a great flight. He stepped onto the plane, greeted by the scent of fresh leather and citrus, a detail aimed at comfort, not intimidation. He stowed his bag. As he settled into his seat, he saw a familiar headline glowing on another passenger's tablet across the aisle. Regulation passed, March for Fair Skies movement succeeds in Senate. A voice leaned in, I saw your segment last month. You held your ground, changed the game. Emery smiled, a little tired, mostly grateful. It wasn't just me, it was the cameras, and everyone who refused to look away. The woman nodded, thoughtful. My daughter wants to be a pilot. I think she just got a better shot. He closed his eyes as the engine's startup thrum rattled through his feet, a sound once tethered to vigilance, now signaling a rare momentum with ease. Above him, the call light flickered. The lead flight attendant's short hair, warm presence knelt beside him. We're honored, Dr. Sharp. Would you care to address the cabin? Some of our crew followed the whole thing. If you're willing, the intercom is yours. The words surprised him. For a moment, he hesitated, glancing down at the half-finished paragraph in his notebook. Then, seeing the attentive faces, multiple hues, ages, the same nervous energy he'd known as a young associate, he nodded. I'd be happy to. A low hum spread through the forward cabin as he rose and stepped to the front. The attendant handed him the receiver. He faced the clustered eyes, the swirl of travel-worn humanity, and let his voice carry steady and measured through the narrow fuselage. Ladies and gentlemen, traveling is about far more than destinations. For too long, some have been asked to prove they belong. Today, together, we set the baseline, dignity by default. Thank you to every witness who helped us get here, and to every crew member who offered respect as the first step. Enjoy your journey, not just where you land, but every minute you belong in the sky. A ripple of applause moved from first class through economy. The pilot's voice soon broke through, playful but genuine. Hard act to follow, Dr. Sharp. This is your captain. Welcome aboard. Let's make this one more flight where everyone gets to arrive. Emery eased back into his seat, notebook open to blank lines. The story no longer felt like his alone. It was gathering, a tide, an irrevocable moment repeating itself in the gestures of staff, the unguarded words of children, the glance of a flight attendant offering a glass of water as if it were the most basic proof of belonging. At 30,000 feet, he reflected on the ripples. Below him sprawled a gridwork of cities, towns, and highways, each a point of intersection. Someone would step off a curb or into a new room and, for the first time, not wonder if they'd be told they'd gone too far. The flight landed early. Outside, cameras flashed. He ignored the waiting press for once. No need for posture. The work had already bloomed elsewhere. At baggage claim, a woman from the FAA approached, credentials flashing. Dr. Sharp, do you have a moment? The secretary would like a word. He nodded. They walked together into a quiet alcove away from the luggage queues and news crews. The Secretary of Transportation joined them, hand extended. She wore the crispness of authority shaped by years of negotiation, her smile honest, eyes edged with fatigue and hope. Dr. Sharp, I wanted to thank you in person. Some mornings we measure our progress by press coverage or votes tallied, but most days our measure is smaller, one less child told to wait, one more worker heard. He offered a wry smile. It took a lot of silence to get here. The secretary laughed, soft and real, but you broke it. And now the audit reports real change. You'll see it everywhere in hiring, in who's promoted, in who's believed the first time. Her aide stepped forward, handing Emery a slim folder. Invitation, Dr. Sharp. Tomorrow we're hosting new staff training, ground crew, cabin, corporate. We'd be honored if you'd open the program. We want equity baked in from day one. He accepted the envelope. Of course, I'll be there. As they left, the secretary paused. One more thing, what would you say if you could speak without the cameras, just to the people who doubt any of this matters? Emery considered, then answered, if you need a list of faces while you're writing policy, look again. Every unseen person is the policy's real test. Make them visible and you pass. She nodded, a touch of steel in her approval. Well said. He watched them go, envelope neatly tucked away. New beginnings, drafted in the dull zone between flights, something like hope. That evening, back at his hotel, Emery sat on the window ledge, phone humming with friends and messages. Gabriel again, then colleagues from NAFT, then a rapid-fire set of texts from the panel's youngest member. Elena, did you see the new guidelines? No extra verification allowed. Training video is unskippable, lol. Even Sybil emailed, apologized to me for how she acted on my first day. He almost laughed. World's turning, he typed. He slid his phone aside, stretching the kinks from his neck. Sometimes resolution felt anticlimactic, a ripple turning into a simple, silent day. But what the headlines missed was the accumulation. 100 change conversations, 1,000 witnesses, 1,000,000 small refusals to let the old lines redraw themselves in invisible ink. He scrolled through missed calls, picking out one from Gabriel. He dialed back and his son answered on the first ring, static in the background, train sounds, maybe wind. Dad, you landed all right. Gabriel's voice was bright, still carrying the same resilience that Emery prized. Landed and survived, no lounge drama. They even asked me if I wanted a hot towel. Gabriel laughed. Progress. A comfortable silence. Emery imagined his son, coat open to the breeze, not waiting for any threshold but the next good conversation. Gabriel, get some rest, Emery said. I'll see you at the hearing. You two will celebrate, okay? Dinner at Ma's old spot, just us like before. Like before, Emery agreed. Good night, son. He hung up, feeling the edges of the day relax. Tomorrow there would be new fires to douse and new rooms to stay put in. He'd answer questions. He'd meet irises and voices he'd never have known without that awful moment in the Newark lounge. But the thickest part of what had changed would belong to people he'd never meet. Maybe not today, maybe not for years. Maybe a new traveler who wouldn't see the hand pausing over their shoulder or hear the phrase, you might want to check your credentials. The night drew itself across the city, windows glowing gold and blue in the towers around his hotel. He stood up, stretched, and looked down at the invitation in his hand. Morning would come fast enough, he was ready. At the training auditorium, 100 new hires sat in rows, some nervous, some exuberant, some quietly scanning their phones in furtive disbelief that someone like him would actually speak to them, not just at them. Anais was there, called up for her calm under pressure, poised beside the training director. She caught Emery's eye and mouthed a quiet, good luck. He stepped to the podium, scanning the faces. The image flashed up behind him, a montage of live-stream screens, airport hallways, news headlines, then a blank. He wanted them to see possibility, not only crisis. Many of you know my name now, he began, but you don't need to know me to get this right. A laugh rippled through the hall. He smiled, easing into his story. We're in the business of movement, people, stories, possibilities. The fastest way to shut a door is to forget whose journey you guard. The fastest way forward is to remember that access isn't a privilege, but a promise backed by every smile, every check-in, every latte that comes with a name instead of a warning. A hand shot up in the third row, young, hesitant. Dr. Sharp, what should I do if I see a colleague? Slipping, trying to move the line. He met her eyes, grateful. You ask them to stand with you, then you step closer, not away. Simple as that. The room melted into quiet affirmation before questions piled up about policies, about pressure from managers, about what to do when a regular wants special treatment. He answered each patiently. No favor can outweigh fairness. If in doubt, treat everyone like they might be live streaming, because in a way they always are. Anouilh asked the final question. Some guests won't ever notice the difference. Is that okay? It's more than okay, he smiled. It means you did your job so well, no one had to think about being safe or seen. Those are the quiet victories. Thunderous applause, fist bumps exchanged in the aisles. He lingered, talking with clusters of new hires, shaking hands, listening to stories. Each felt like another step toward permanence, not just policy, but a habit of mind, a way of meeting the world. Afterward, Anouilh met him by the exit. Thank you, Mr. Sharp. I hope you'll come back. I will, he promised, and next time let me buy the coffee. She grinned. Deal. He caught the train to the city, the jostle of commuters oddly comforting. He thumbed through the morning news. FAA commends airline compliance. Executive orders fast-tracked for industry-wide adoption. March for Fair Skies now featured in textbooks, law reviews, even case studies at the business school that once laughed off his scholarship essay. At his arrival station, a crowd pressed toward the escalator. No one stopped him. No one asked for credentials. Even in that, there was a lesson, an ordinary victory, uncelebrated but vast. The city lay open to him, an ordinary day. He walked out into sunlight, a little brighter, a little more deserved. Past each glass door, thresholds tangled with memory, he let them go. And behind him, in airports and offices and homes, the movement continued. Witnesses and participants, rule makers and risk takers, children who would fly without fear, attendants who would not hesitate to offer both service and respect. Because the truth had always been this simple, even when it was hardest to see. Belonging, when made real, leaves no room for the old excuses. And courage isn't the noise you make when 1,000 listen. It's the quiet answer in an empty room as you decide the line will not move today. Emery's journey wasn't over. The story, no longer only his, was already being told by voices multiplying in the mundane, the extraordinary, the spaces between. If the spotlight sometimes wandered, if the cameras clicked away, he knew it didn't matter. The click that counted had already echoed, long and final, through every room that would now refuse to close its doors too soon. He walked on, and with each step came the proof. The sky above, open, waiting, wider than before.